Imagine this, a young boy stands beside a railway station. Trains thunder past, passengers rush through the platforms, and somewhere in the crowd, he helps sell tea. Decades later, that same boy who would stand before millions of people, command one of the world's largest democracies, and become one of the most powerful political figures on the planet. His name is Narendra Modi. But how did a boy from a modest background rise through India's brutal and competitive political system to become Prime Minister, and then transform himself into the dominant figure in Indian politics? This is the story of ambition, ideology, organization, political survival, powerful communication, and a rise that changed India forever. Narendra Modi was born in 1950 in Vadnagar in the western Indian state of Gujarat. He came from a humble family. Modi has often spoken about helping his family sell tea near the local railway station during his childhood.
मित्रों, मैं बचपन में रेल के डिब्बे में चाय बेचता था और आज आपके सामने खड़ा हूं.
And whether you see this story as an inspiring symbol of social mobility or as a part of carefully constructed political identity, one thing is undeniable. His humble origins became one of the most powerful parts of his political story. In a country where political power had often been associated with wealthy families, famous surnames, and political dynasties, Modi represented something completely different. He wasn't born into India's most famous political family. He did not inherit a political party. He did not enter politics because his father was a minister or because his family controlled a powerful political machine. Instead, his rise came through years of organizational work, and that is where the story truly begins. As a young man, Modi became associated with the Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh, commonly known as the RSS. The organization played a major role in shaping his political worldview and perhaps more even importantly, his understanding of discipline and organization.
He came to Ahmedabad and eventually joined RSS and his life changed.
Modi spent years working as an organizer. This was not glamorous politics. There were no television cameras, no giant rallies, no prime ministerial security. Instead, there were meetings, networks, travel, planning, and the slow process of building relationships inside a political movement. And this gave Modi something extremely valuable. He learned how power actually works at the ground level. Politics isn't won only on television, it's won through people, local workers, party offices, volunteers, community networks, and millions of voters. Modi spent years understanding that system from the inside. Eventually, he became associated with the Bharatiya Janata Party, the BJP. At the time, the BJP was still fighting to establish itself as the dominant force in Indian politics, but Modi was rising inside the organization. And then, Gujarat changed everything. In 2001, Modi became the Chief Minister of Gujarat.
Set up Modi to eventually become the Chief Minister of Gujarat, one of India's wealthiest states, a decade later.
At that point, very few people could have predicted that he would eventually become Prime Minister of India. But then came one of the most controversial periods of his political career. In 2002, Gujarat experienced horrific communal violence. The events resulted in massive loss of life and became a defining controversy surrounding Modi. Opponents accused his government of failing to stop the violence and raised serious questions about his leadership during the crisis. Modi denied the wrongdoing, and India's Supreme Court appointed special investigation team ultimately found no basis to prosecute him in the case.
One of his aides was later convicted of organising a massacre, but no case against Modi has been successful so far. He strongly denies any wrongdoing, though he once said he regretted Muslim suffering as he would a puppy being run over by a car.
But politically, the damage, or rather the controversy, did not destroy him. Instead, Modi survived. And then he did something that would reshape his political identity. He began focusing heavily on development. Over the following years, Modi worked to build an image of Gujarat as a symbol of economic growth, investment, infrastructure, and business-friendly governance. Factories expanded, investment increased, roads and infrastructure became central to his political message, and Modi understood something many politicians were still learning. Politics was changing. Television was becoming more powerful, the internet was growing, social media was beginning to influence public opinion, and voters were increasingly exposed to national political narratives. Modi built a powerful personal brand around one simple idea: a strong leader who could deliver development. The message was simple. India had problems, India had corruption, India had unemployment, India had slow decision making. And according to Modi's political message, India needed a leader who could cut through the system and get things done. And that message would soon move beyond Gujarat, all the way to New Delhi. By 2014, the political environment was perfect for a major shift. The Congress-led government was facing anger over corruption allegations, economic frustration, and a growing perception that India needed change.
The country was emerging from 10 years of rule by the Congress Party, the incumbent party since independence. A party gradually overtaken by corruption scandals.
And then came Narendra Modi. His campaign was unlike anything India had seen before. Massive rallies, carefully crafted speeches, social media campaigns, television appearances, digital messaging, and one incredibly powerful slogan, that is, better days are coming. But Modi's greatest political weapon was perhaps his personal story. He could stand in front of millions and say, I am not part of the elite. I know what ordinary people experience. I came from a humble background and I worked my way up.
I come from a very humble family. My parents played a very big role in my life. I came from a very poor family. You probably know that I used to sell tea at the railway station.
Whether every voter agreed with his politics or not, the story was powerful. And in 2014, it worked. BJP won a historic parliamentary majority. Narendra Modi became Prime Minister of India. The tea seller from Gujarat had now reached the highest political office in the world's largest democracy. Winning one election can happen because of anger. Winning repeatedly requires something else. That is organization, communication, loyalty, and a political system capable of reaching voters again and again. Under Modi and the BJP, political campaign became increasingly centralized and professional. The party expanded its digital presence, election campaigns became highly organized, Modi himself became the central face of political movement. In many elections, voters weren't simply voting for a local candidate, they were voting for Modi.
My coalition is coming back to govern for a third consecutive term, and that's a guarantee. We're grateful to the people. This is the first time a government that's completed 2 terms will return for a third term.
His images appeared everywhere. His speeches dominated news cycles. His ability to communicate directly with supporters through rallies, radio, television, and digital platforms gave him a connection with voters that few Indian politicians could match. And his supporters saw him as something India desperately needed, a decisive leader. But his opponents saw something very different. They argued that the increasing concentration of political power around one leader threatened India's democratic institutions. And this brings us to one of the biggest debates surrounding Modi's rise. For Modi's supporters, his strength is exactly the point. They argue that India is a massive and complicated country. With more than 1 billion people, hundreds of languages, enormous regional differences, and a constant political change, India needs decisive leadership. They point toward infrastructure projects, digital government services, India's growing international influence, and efforts to expand manufacturing and economic development. They see Modi as the leader who gave India confidence on the world stage. But opponents argue that his rise has come with increasing pressure on political opponents, journalists, civil society organizations, and institutions. They worry about polarization, about religious tensions, and the worry about what happens when one political figure becomes larger than the institutions around him. And perhaps that is what makes Narendra Modi one of the most fascinating political figures of 21st century. To millions, he is a symbol of ambition. To millions of others, he represents a dramatic transformation of Indian politics. But whether you support him or oppose him, one fact is impossible to deny. He changed the game. So how did a tea seller become India's most powerful person? The answer wasn't luck. It was decades of preparation. First he learned organization, then he learned politics, then he built a reputation in Gujarat. Then he transformed himself into a national political figure, and when the right political moment arrived, he was ready. But there was another secret. Modi understood the power of storytelling. Every powerful leader has a story, and Modi's story was easy for people to understand. A boy from a humble family, a young political worker, a regional leader, a controversial politician, a development-focused chief minister, and finally, the Prime Minister of India. It is a story of transformation, and in politics, stories can be just as powerful as policies, because voters don't only vote for governments. Sometimes, they vote for a person they believe represents their own hopes, their frustrations, their identity, and their future. After winning in 2014, Modi won again in 2019 with an even larger mandate for the BJP. That proves something important. His first victory was not a political accident. He had built one of the strongest political brands in modern India, and his influence extended beyond elections. Not simply as another developing country, but as a potential global power. And Modi positioned himself at the center of that transformation. His message was clear: a stronger India, a more confident India, an India capable of competing with world's biggest powers. And for his supporters, this became the ultimate proof of his success. The tea seller had not just become Prime Minister, he had become one of the most influential leaders India had ever produced. Narendra Modi's rise teaches us something important about power. You don't always need to be born in power to reach it. But ambition alone isn't enough. You need organization, patience, the ability to survive controversy, to understand people you are trying to lead, and perhaps most importantly, you need to understand the moment. Narendra Modi spent decades preparing before he became Prime Minister. By the time India was ready for a political shift, he had already built the experience, network, message, and personal brand needed to take the advantage of that moment. From helping sell tea as a child, to working as a political organizer, to running one of India's most important states, to leading the world's largest democracy, his journey is one of the most extraordinary political rises of modern times. And whether you admire Narendra Modi or strongly oppose him, his story answers one incredible question: how did a tea seller become India's most powerful person? He understood that power doesn't appear overnight. First, you build the network, then you build the reputation, then you build the movement, and when history finally gives you an opportunity, you make sure you are ready to take it. Thank you for watching The End State. Today's story was incredible, but the next one is up to you. Let us know about your interests and topics you want us to unfold. I'm your host Z, and I'll see you in the next video.